When life takes something from you, it is never the end of the story. Spirit never subtracts without preparing to multiply. What appears as loss is often the clearing of the old so the greater may finally enter. You are not standing at the edge of defeat. You are standing at the doorway of return, and the return will be far greater than what slipped from your hands. Loss is one of the greatest illusions the human mind encounters, because it convinces you that something has slipped away permanently, when in truth the spiritual realm never operates in terms of loss or absence. Everything that belongs to you in the divine pattern exists in a place of perfect safety, untouched by circumstance, untouched by time, and untouched by human limitation. What you call loss is often only the rearrangement of the visible world in preparation for a greater alignment that the invisible world has already set in motion. When something leaves suddenly or slowly fades, the first instinct is often to mourn. It is gone forever. Yet the laws that govern life do not recognize disappearance. They only recognize transformation. The mind sees an empty space, but the spirit sees a space being cleared, expanded, and refined for what is meant to arrive next. When you can begin to view life through this understanding, you stop fearing endings because you recognize them as transitions. You stop clinging to what is slipping because you know that whatever leaves is no longer carrying the energy that matches where your life is meant to rise. It is the nature of the human mind to hold tightly to the visible, to judge situations by appearances, and to believe that once a door closes it is sealed forever. But spiritual law does not operate within these boundaries. When you experience what you call loss, you are being invited to shift from a place of reaction to a place of revelation. You are invited to see beyond the physical event and into the deeper purpose beneath it. The universe is exact in all its movements, and it never removes anything without placing something else in motion to take its place in a higher form. Everything is orchestrated with intention, whether you recognize it or not. The key is to trust the unseen, even when the seen feels painful. When you cultivate trust, you dissolve fear. When fear dissolves, clarity rises. And in that clarity you begin to see that nothing was taken in the way you imagined. It was simply being repositioned so that it could return to you in a way that aligns with your growth, your readiness, and your expanding sense of self. Loss becomes an illusion once you understand that life is always moving you toward increase. Even the moments that feel like breaking are often moments of breakthrough in disguise. There are times when the universe removes a person or opportunity because it can no longer carry you to the place you are meant to go. There are times when something must fall away so that you are no longer anchored to a path that limits your potential. And there are times when what you call loss is actually protection from something your human eyes could not yet see. When you begin to trust that every shift is purposeful, even if uncomfortable, you reclaim your power. You stop seeing yourself as the victim of what happened and begin to rise as the beneficiary of what is unfolding. You start realizing that the universe is not diminishing you but preparing to expand you. In the same way, understanding that what is yours by divine right cannot be taken creates a deep foundation of peace and confidence within you. Divine right is not a human claim. It is not built on force, fear, or attachment. It is built on alignment. If something is truly yours at the highest level, nothing in the world can remove it, delay it, or destroy it. It may appear to step aside or shift temporarily, but it will circle back in a form that is even more fitting for your life. And if something leaves completely, you can trust that it was not part of your divine pattern. The universe is incapable of withholding what belongs to you. It can only deliver it at the right time and in the right shape. Many times people cling to things that are no longer aligned and call it stability, when in truth it is stagnation. The universe has to pry it away gently or dramatically so that the greater pattern can unfold. When you accept that what is meant for you cannot be lost, you begin to release the fear of competition, scarcity, and disappointment. You stop looking at others as threats because you realize that no one can take your place in your own destiny. You stop worrying about timing because you understand that divine timing is always precise. You stop grieving opportunities you think you missed because you recognize that anything meant for you is never lost, only rerouted. This shift in understanding brings tremendous freedom because it lifts the weight of uncertainty from your shoulders. You no longer spend your days wondering what you could have done differently or why something did not last. Instead, you focus on cultivating the mindset and energy that allow the divine right blessings to locate you effortlessly. Divine right does not operate according to the limitations of the seen world. It works through alignment of thought, intention, and trust. When your inner world matches the frequency of what is destined for you, the outer world begins to rearrange itself accordingly. People come into your life at the perfect moment. Doors open with precision. Situations shift in ways you could never have orchestrated alone. And even what seemed lost begins to return, not as a repetition of the past, but as an elevated expression of what you were always meant to receive. This understanding teaches you to focus not on what left, but on who you are becoming. As you evolve, your blessings evolve. As you grow, what belongs to you grows. Nothing that is part of your highest path will ever be denied to you, but it may require you to rise, to release, to mature, or to strengthen your faith before it can arrive. If something seems to have been taken, understand that it was not taken from your spiritual identity. The divine plan does not operate through subtraction. It operates through refinement and replacement. It removes what no longer fits your future in order to give you what aligns with your destiny. You cannot lose what is woven into your purpose. You cannot be separated from what is tied to your growth. Even when something appears to vanish, it is often simply being transformed for a more powerful return. When you stop mourning the past and turn your attention toward what you are destined to receive, you activate the current of restoration. Restoration is not simply returning what was lost. It is returning it increased, improved, and purified. The more you trust this law, the more effortlessly life begins to unfold. You notice that the things you once feared losing no longer hold the same power over you. You begin to live with an inner assurance that whatever comes is right and whatever goes is right, because you are guided, protected, and supported by forces greater than circumstance. This trust creates a magnetic field around you that draws in the people, opportunities, and blessings that match your divine blueprint. It also shields you from what is not meant for you, even if your temporary emotions think they want it. You start to recognize that any apparent loss is simply the universe working on your behalf long before you see the results. The deeper you understand these truths, the more peaceful your life becomes. You no longer chase what is leaving or cling to what is closing. You no longer beg for what is gone. You stand still, centered, and receptive, knowing that divine law operates with precision. What is meant for you cannot be taken, and what is not meant for you cannot stay. With this awareness, you begin to live with a calm certainty that the best outcomes will always find you. And as you hold this certainty, you allow the greater good that has always been yours to return, rise, and reveal itself in your life. Faith is not merely a belief or a hopeful idea. It is a force that activates the hidden currents of restoration waiting to move toward you. Faith is the permission you give the universe to work on your behalf. It is the inner declaration that what appears broken can be rebuilt and that what seems missing can find its way back into your life in a far more meaningful form. Many people speak of faith, but few understand its role in the unfolding of restoration. Faith is not a passive state. It is an active alignment that shifts your inner atmosphere. When you choose faith over fear, you choose movement over stagnation. You choose creation over collapse. You choose expectation over resignation. Faith does not ask you to pretend that loss is planned. It asks you to trust that loss is not final. It asks you to look beyond the surface of events and step into the deeper truth that life is always arranging something better for you. Even when the arrangement looks chaotic at first, fear delays restoration because it keeps your attention tangled in the past. When you replay what happened, you hold yourself in a loop that cannot produce anything new. Faith frees you from that loop. It lifts your perceptions so you can see possibilities rather than problems. It is the decision to speak life into situations that seem lifeless. Every word you speak carries energy, and energy shapes outcomes. When you speak words of despair, you reinforce what you fear. When you speak words of trust, you open the invisible channels that bring good back into your life. Faith is the builder that reconstructs what fear tried to dismantle. Faith is the light that fills the space loss once occupied. Faith is the stance you take when everything around you suggests that your best days are behind you. You stand anyway. You believe anyway. You expect anyway. And in that expectation, the law of restoration begins its work. Restoration does not always come instantly, but faith keeps you steady while the unseen rearranges itself. The universe responds to the inner state you hold most consistently. When you live in worry, you attract delays and confusion because your energy is scattered. When you live in trust, you attract clarity, solutions, and surprising turns of events because your energy is aligned. Faith sharpens your intuition so you can recognize the opportunities that lead to your restoration. It strengthens your courage, so you can take the steps that bring your good closer. It softens your heart, so you can release the old without bitterness. This softness is not weakness, it is strength in its highest form, because it allows life to move through you rather than against you. The more you lean into faith, the more you realize that restoration comes through channels you do not always expect. Something you lost may return in a completely different form. A closed door may lead to something far larger than the door you were knocking on. A relationship that ended may be replaced with one that honors your growth in ways the old one never could. Faith gives you the patience to wait for what truly matches your soul instead of settling for what merely fills the moment. It gives you the wisdom to recognize that some losses are actually gifts disguised as endings, and some endings are simply the start of a higher direction. Faith keeps you from grasping at the past and guides you gently toward the future that is calling your name. Just as faith activates restoration, the universe removes the lesser so the greater may enter. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of spiritual law. People often interpret the removal of something familiar as punishment or misfortune, when in truth it is divine refinement. The lesser is anything that cannot carry you into the next level of your life. It may be a habit, a job, a relationship, a belief, or a pattern of thinking. When the universe begins to elevate you, anything that weighs you down begins to loosen. Sometimes you release it willingly, and other times it is pulled away because you have outgrown it. Growth requires space. Expansion requires room. And the universe will clear that room even when you resist the clearing. No one enjoys losing something they have become attached, even if that attachment is limiting. But the universe is not concerned with comfort, it is concerned with your highest good. When you pray for growth, you must expect that certain things will fall away. When you ask for abundance, you must expect that scarcity-based thinking will be challenged. When you ask for aligned relationships, you must expect that misaligned connections may dissolve. The universe cannot elevate you while you cling to what belongs to a previous version of yourself. It has to remove the lesser so the greater can have its rightful place. This removal is not random. It is intentional. It is precise. It is purposeful. Something that once supported you may no longer be able to sustain the weight of who you are becoming. Something that once brought joy may no longer match your evolving values. Something that once felt stable may now limit your growth. The universe sees this before you do, and because it operates through wisdom rather than emotion, it begins moving the smaller patterns out of your life to make room for the larger ones. Your task is not to fight the clearing. Your task is to trust the purpose behind it. If something is being removed, it is because something greater is approaching. Often people hold on to the lesser because they fear the unknown. They would rather cling to what is familiar than step into what is possible. But the universe cannot give you more while your hands are full of what no longer serves you. When you release the lesser, you signal that you are ready to receive the greater. And the greater always carries more alignment, more fulfillment, more freedom, and more truth. The lesser may feel comfortable, but it keeps you small. The greater may feel unfamiliar at first, but it expands you into the life you are meant to live. The removal of the lesser is an act of preparation. It reshapes your inner world so you can hold the blessings you have asked for. It strengthens your character so you do not sabotage the very things you desire. It sharpens your discernment so you make choices that honor your higher path. The greater cannot enter a life cluttered with old fears, old doubts, and old attachments. It needs space to land, and the universe creates that space, even if the process feels uncomfortable. When you begin to recognize these movements, you stop reacting with fear when something leaves. Instead, you look for the purpose behind the shift. You ask yourself what the universe might be preparing you for. You examine your life with curiosity rather than panic. And in that curiosity, you open yourself to receive the greater with grace rather than resistance. Every removal becomes a sign of elevation. Every ending becomes a sign of beginning. Every clearing becomes an invitation for something more aligned to step into your life. When faith activates restoration and the universe clears the lesser, you begin to step into a life shaped not by loss but by increase. You become someone who trusts the process rather than fights it. You become someone who understands that life is always moving you toward more, not less. And as you embrace this truth, you position yourself to receive the greater that has been waiting to return to you. Expectation is one of the most powerful forces at work in a person's life because it shapes not only how you move through the world but also what the world brings back to you. Expectation is not a wish or a vague hope. It is the silent command your energy sends out, calling forth experiences that match the atmosphere you hold within. When you expect disappointment, you draw situations that echo that belief. When you expect good, you invite pathways that carry good. The universe responds not to your words alone, but to the tone of your inner state, and expectation sets that tone more strongly than anything else. Many people ask for restoration, while secretly expecting more loss, more delay, or more disappointment. When your outer words say yes, but your inner energy says no, the energy wins every time. Expectation is the bridge between what you believe and what you receive. The clearer your expectation, the faster your restoration begins to unfold. To expect restoration is to align your thoughts, emotions, and choices with the idea that something greater is already on its way. It means waking each day with the awareness that the universe is working behind the scenes, arranging opportunities, shifting circumstances, and opening doors you have not yet seen. It means treating the future not as a place of uncertainty, but as a place of unfolding good. When you hold this mindset consistently, life begins to shift in ways you did not anticipate. A conversation appears at the right time. A chance meeting connects you to a new opportunity. A closed door reveals a new path that serves you better. Expectation is not magic. It is alignment. It positions you to recognize the signs, take the steps, and welcome the blessings that are already forming. The challenge many people face is that they expect the worst without realizing it. They replay old disappointments, rehearse fears, and imagine negative outcomes long before they occur. When this becomes a pattern, the mind becomes conditioned to anticipate lack rather than abundance. The heart becomes guarded, and expectation becomes shaped by old wounds instead of new possibilities. To break this pattern, you must choose to direct your expectation consciously. This means noticing when your mind drifts into fear and gently guiding it back to trust. It means reminding yourself that your past experiences do not dictate your future blessings. Expectation is like a compass. If it is pointed toward fear, you wander into disappointment. If it is pointed toward trust, you walk toward restoration. Holding a strong expectation requires emotional discipline. It calls you to speak life into situations that feel uncertain. It asks you to remain steady when impatience tries to take over. It invites you to step into a higher vision of yourself even when circumstances appear unchanged. Expectation is not about ignoring reality. It is about seeing beyond temporary appearances and remembering that the universe works in timing, not in panic. When you maintain this inner steadiness, you become a magnet for clarity. You begin to act in ways that align with the outcome you desire. You make decisions that open doors instead of closing them. You attract experiences that match the energy you are living in. Expectation sets the rhythm of your life, and when the rhythm is steady, the blessings that match it begin to flow. Just as expectation attracts good, every loss opens the door to a larger blessing. Because the universe never removes without returning in greater measure. This is a principle that many struggle to accept because they have been taught to see loss as the end rather than the beginning of transformation. Yet, when something leaves your life, whether by choice or circumstance, it creates a space that must be filled. Nature does not tolerate emptiness. Every void invites something new to enter. The question is not whether something will fill the space, but whether you will allow the blessing that is meant to fill it. Many people try to stuff the space with familiar patterns, old habits, and hurry replacements. But these only delay the arrival of what is meant to come. The larger blessing cannot enter a life crowded with fear, doubt, or desperate clinging to the past. Loss becomes the doorway to increase when you choose to trust the purpose behind the clearing. Something leaves because it can no longer serve the person you are becoming. It may have supported you once, but life requires you to grow beyond what is small, limited, or outdated. The greater blessing waiting to enter your life often needs more capacity, more maturity, and more openness than you had before the loss occurred. The experience of losing something teaches you what you truly value, strengthens your resilience, and expands your understanding of what you deserve. These qualities prepare you to receive what you once might have resisted or felt unworthy of. The universe uses loss as a tool of elevation, not punishment. The larger blessing that follows loss is not always a direct replacement. It may come in a form you did not expect. A lost opportunity may lead to a calling more aligned with your gifts. A closed relationship may prepare you for one that honors your growth. A financial setback may open the path to a new way of earning that brings greater freedom. The blessing grows beyond what was lost because you grow beyond who you were. Life does not return things exactly as they were. It returns them expanded, refined, and better suited to your evolving purpose. When you understand this, loss no longer feels like destruction. It feels like preparation. The blessing that follows is greater because it aligns with a higher version of you. What you once accepted, you no longer tolerate. What you once feared, you now face with strength. What you once considered impossible, you now see as attainable. Loss carves out the depth needed to hold the goodness that is coming. Without that depth, the blessing might have been too heavy, too demanding, or too unfamiliar to hold. Growth happens in the space that loss creates, and growth is what shapes you into someone capable of receiving the larger blessing. To welcome this blessing, you must be willing to remain open, even when the future feels uncertain. Openness is the soil in which new possibilities take root. When you close yourself off because something ended, you block the arrival of what is trying to begin. The greater blessing may be standing right outside your door, waiting for a moment of openness to enter. You do not have to know what it is or how it will come. You simply need to create space within your thoughts and emotions for something larger, wiser, and more fulfilling to take the place of what was lost. When your expectation aligns with this openness, your life begins to shift in powerful ways. Every experience of loss contains a seed of greater good. That seed waits for your expectation to water it. When you expect restoration, you activate the seed. When you expect increase, you nourish the seed. When you expect the greater blessing to arrive in its perfect time, you create the conditions for it to bloom. What once felt like an ending becomes the foundation for a season of unexpected abundance. And as you continue to hold this energy, the blessing that follows does not just match what you lost. It surpasses it. It rises beyond it. It becomes a testament to the truth that life always returns to you in abundance when you trust the unfolding path.